Happy New Year. It's good to be here.
It is indeed.
It is. So I've been in kind of a reflective mood lately, and I've been looking back at the work that I've done in my professional life. And I've been aware that most of the people that I've been working with are at a rather low vibration. Yet, I do what I do well. Am I missing something?
Just this. Nobody gets you. And so you might want to take a look at what you're doing and the pleasure it brings you and what you think your ultimate goal is, because we're getting right to the heart of what's tripping most people up. What trips most people up is that their worldview, their self-view, their, you could say belief system, or you could say their self-view, you could say belief system, or you could say desire system, feels correct. You feel like what you've learned through life and what you've come to is a really good thing, which you want to share with others. But the missing point, the missing understanding is that in the complexity of every other individual, not just all of them put together, but any one of them, there are so many reasons that their point of attraction is what it is, that they just can't hear what you mean when you say it. In other words, we are, for all of these words, understanding that you as individuals, over 1,000 people in this room, each one of you is getting something a little different from what we're saying. Is there a sort of harmonic consistency? Yes. So how we feel as we are acknowledging all of you, we know you get this, and these words will feel important to you. We know that each of you has a vortex full of desires that you've carved out of this life and even before. And we know the pleasure that you will experience as they manifest in their fullness. We also know the pleasure, the potential for pleasure that you will experience as they are becoming. In other words, it's not just the final manifestation, it's the expansion, it's the new understanding, it's the new aha, it's the new awareness. So just like Esther knew for sure that the water is going to come to a boil, we know for sure that every one of you is going to get what you came into this life experience to get. So as we visit with you, we're offering the laws of the universe because we want each of you to find the path to what you want, but in no way do we want you to compare yourself to one another, and in no way do we have a perspective of life that we prefer you to live. You see what we're getting at? That's how sure we are of the perfection of this life experience, that everyone gets to become and everyone gets to find pleasure in what they are becoming, and as it is happening as it goes along. And so just in the way that you acknowledge that you feel like you might be doing something wrong, because what's the statement that supports that feeling that I might be doing something wrong? Can you make that statement clearly?
I don't have everything that I want.
I don't have everything that I want, or they don't have everything that they want. I haven't been able to guide them to the thing. Don't have everything that they want. I haven't been able to guide them to the things that they want, which is what I want. I want to be able to guide them to the things that they want, and when they aren't getting what they want, then I must be failing in my guidance, which is what I want. But you become free when you acknowledge that everyone is here and everyone has an inner being, and everyone is experiencing the same law of attraction, and everyone has created a vibrational version, and everyone feels emotion. And if you can help them to understand their guidance system, that's what you want. You don't want to guide them. You want to guide them to their guidance. You want to guide them to their guidance, not to where their guidance will take them. Here's what we mean by this. So you're sitting at a table and you're with people you know, and somebody brings up a subject like a car and brings up a subject like a car, and that activates a lot of different things to a lot of different people depending on what just happened. One just had a flat tire, and one's car he thinks is a piece of crap, and one's car he can't afford to make the payment on it, and one just got a new hot really fast moving car. In other words, so just around this small table of 10 or 20 people, let's say, there are a whole lot of different things that happen just when the thought about a car comes into the mix. So then the conversation goes to the flat tire, which goes to the danger on the roadside, which goes to the police officer, which goes to public whatever, which goes to, in other words, the conversation, which goes to insurance, which goes to big business, which goes to big government. And so here's this small collective of thinkers that think that they're talking about the same subject, that aren't anywhere near that they're talking about the same subject, that aren't anywhere near the same subject. But the thought, and that's what keeps you all up and down all over the emotional scale, because you think you're thinking about money even when you're thinking about not enough of it, and you think you're thinking about peaceful life even when you're pushing against the fact that it isn't. In other words, you sort of get what we mean. But when you sit down at the table, any table, as someone who's kept the fire going under your feeling of being blessed, under your feeling of being worthy, under your feeling of being glad that you're alive in this body. In other words, when that's what you're feeling like, when you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you've been practicing that, and so that's just how you mostly feel, now you at the table, you have a different way that you are guiding the conversation. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about the car or the flowers or the girl, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about the car or the flowers or the girl or the guy or the food or the sun or the moon or the sky or the rain or the flowers or the food. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You're on the same vibrational wavelength relative to all of it, which is tuned in, tapped in, turned on, with source energy flowing through you, feeling like you're blessed to be there and glad that everybody else is there, and knowing that everybody's getting whatever they're asking for and able to let in, and you never feel like you're failing, because you're not. So what this conversation is about, and leave it to you to be the one to bring it up into this environment, what you're getting at here is that tending to your point of attraction is the only thing that matters. And knowing that, you can step into any environment and, like your inner being, stand in that compassionate, like your inner being, stand in that compassionate stance. Compassion meaning fully present, aware, but holding your vibration of well-being no matter what is being evidenced in this moment. Because we're just going to give you the answer, isn't a feeling that I'm doing something wrong, isn't that the exact opposite end of the stick of what your inner being knows about you? Isn't that anti-worthy? Isn't that anti-blessed? Isn't that anti-good? And it just can't be. You cannot make your decision about your worthiness or your value be based upon anybody else's reaction to you, because the reaction to you isn't about you. It's about them. You see, oh, do not misunderstand us. You say, oh, do not misunderstand us. Let's be clear so you won't. You have so much love for other people, and you want their well-being, and you've put them in your vortex. So they're in your vortex. Their well-being is in your vortex. Their well-being is in your vortex, and your inner being is looking out for your well-being that you have for them. And remember what we said earlier? Your inner being is never looking at the other end of the stick. So your inner being knows their well-being. You put them there, and your inner being is tending to that. But when you worry, you have diverged from what your inner being knows. In other words, sometimes people say, Abraham, you teach selfishness. And we say, yeah, we do it on purpose. We do. We teach selfishness because if you're not selfish enough to tend to your own point of attraction, then you don't have anything to give anyone else anyway. You can't influence anything. Think about what we just talked about just now. In other words, all of those people just talked about just now. In other words, all of those people whom you care about are in your vortex, and of course their success feels tied to your happiness, but their in the moment success cannot be tied to your happiness. Your vortex version of them is what's tied to your happiness. You must focus upon your vortex version of them if you are to be happy, and under those conditions you have the most to give them. Did you feel us unravel that one for you?
Yes.
Really good.
Really
this
good.
is a really good time for a segment of refreshment.